$16 million announced for parks in Manitoba by the government today, but that number is not all it's cracked up to be. I'm going to give you a bit of an explanation about it. Last week before the throne speech, we offered a quick snapshot about conservation and provincial park funding. The short of it is that we're short on funding, we're short on staffing levels, and we're short on services. They haven't grown the way that Manitobans want their parks to grow and the way our population has grown. The throne speech had nothing for us in parks. We were hoping we would see something talking about parks, but nothing whatsoever for conservation, parks, or climate. It was really a horrible snapshot into a government that is ideologically bent on abandoning their responsibility to look after nature, protect biodiversity, and deal with the climate crisis. We've had two funding announcements about trails and parks since that snapshot was released and the throne speech. We also got a snarky government communication saying that the moving of the entirety of the wildlife branch and the fisheries branch out of conservation wasn't a cut to conservation. Resource development looks after wildlife and fisheries now, and really that proves the point. Fisheries and wildlife are not supposed to be managed as resources. This is nature. This is the thing that gives us life on this planet. The government is not looking to protect and conserve wild spaces and wild species as they should. Even if you accepted that the fisheries move and the wildlife staff are doing the exact same job in resource development, which doesn't make any sense, then you wouldn't have moved them if they're doing the exact same job. Even if you accepted that, we still have a 16% cut to staff in just 4 years under the current Palliser progressive conservative government. So let's touch on that. Climate emergency. We are in a climate emergency. We are in a biodiversity emergency. It's a crisis. We are also in a pandemic. Three major things that are going on right now that the government has to deal with. We have to act on all three of those things. We have to accept the science on all three of those things. And we're watching the science of the pandemic, talking about what the effects of this pandemic are and how we have to manage it. But we are not acting on the science of climate change or on the biodiversity loss. So remember that. The three things the government needs to be acting on, they're only acting a little bit on one of them and following through with their ideas to cut more to government and reduce spending. And we just cannot cut our way out of a biodiversity crisis. So on to the two funding announcements. A fund for trails was announced and some funding for Trails Manitoba, the organization. That's good. That's some movement on trails is fine. But this is not a strategy. This is not a vision for how to take care of the province. This is, again, abandoning the responsibility to look after parks. All park management plans, every single park is supposed to have one. All park management plans need to have a human-powered trails component to them, and all park management plans need to have a biodiversity component, and all park management plans have to have a climate component to them. So we have the resources right now to manage these crises that we have and the losses to parks, the places people want to go because of the pandemic. We can manage it with the tools that are here. They're being ignored and they're being cut. So the second announcement was today, $16 million for parks. Yay! Okay, but wait. Of that $16 million, $12 million was for waste. This is sewage, moving garbage around, things like that. This isn't parks services. This is routine. This is maintenance. I mean, this stuff doesn't even warrant a news release, but the government is sensitive because we're calling out the fact that they are not taking care of our parks. So they're throwing out this political fluff, posturing, hoping the media will pick it up and we won't recognize what's actually happening. $3 million is for the Falcon South Shore road improvement, and that road's in bad shape. Absolutely. But I think that's a highways and infrastructure thing. And the other thing is that having to drive slow in a park is probably okay. And I get it. People have to use that road. They'd like it to be better. But driving slow in a park, say in Nopaming, which is gravel roads with 30 and 40 kilometer-hour corners, kind of gets you into the feel of nature versus the high-speed paved highways in Whiteshell where people are zinging around and having accidents. So take it or leave it, $3 million of park funding is for an existing road. That's not service expansion. That's going to benefit us, our overcrowding and our lack of services in a park. The bright spot, there was $400,000 for playgrounds and things like that. That's okay. I mean, people want services. That's part of services. $100,000 for accessibility at beaches. That is also a good thing. Again, $100,000 out of $16.6 million announced. Those are pretty small numbers. Just don't buy the government's spin on $16 million in parks. This government is still not looking after our parks. They are not addressing the climate emergency, which expanding parks does. They are not addressing the biodiversity crisis, which expanding protected areas does. Don't let them sell you on inaction. Manitobans want our natural world protected. Visit wildernesscommittee.org, find the letter writing tool, write a letter to government, tell them what you want from parks, tell them that this isn't enough and you don't want spin, you want real action, more services, more staffing, more funding. I'm Eric on the ground in Winnipeg for the Wilderness Committee.